Welcome back to week 11 of the DSR channel, and I was not going to do a ranking video on these two origin feats, and I thought I'd just stick them in the in the CSV and the PDF and the Google Drive, and just have them be there when people downloaded the next version of that. But then I thought, that's kind of like skipping out on this. Some people might be really interested in me going over that ranks of these, and so all right, so we're going to do it. But this will be a fast one. Even I can't turn this into a 20-minute video, right? We'll see. Okay, here's the ranks for both of these. Okay, so as a reminder, right, I rank by role, and when I'm ranking something that isn't a base class, what I'm really saying is not that you should take this if you're in that role, but rather this adds features for that role. Okay, so maybe you're a healer, but you want to be more of a frontliner. Okay, then maybe you do want the Shadowmoor Hexer feat. Okay, maybe you're a tank, but you want more damage, so then you'll take the Shadowmoor Hexer feat or something like that. Okay, so just because it's rated in that role doesn't mean you should take it. Rather, and that's your role. Rather, if you're looking to diversify, or maybe if you want to double down on your role, right? Like both of those are valid. Just keep in mind that you will reach at some point where you're good enough at a role and you want to diversify. And it's always a good idea to diversify your role, okay? And feats, subclasses, and spells and multiclassing are great ways to do that. Okay, first up, Child of the Sun. Okay, so this one gives you two features: Eyes of Irdu, which gives you advantage on saving throws against being to avoid or end the blinded condition. Um, the problem there is that it's really circumstantial. A lot of the times when you're blinded, there's no saving throw because it's just heavy obscurement, and you're blinded because of that. So it does happen. There are times when you have to make a saving throw versus being blinded. It's just not very common. It's pretty rare, actually. In those moments, it might feel great, and you've got you're going to help your allies within 10 feet. And for those two, for that feature, I give this a D in survival. Right, it is a survival feature. It's not. I'm not saying it's useless. The Eyes of Iridu. What I'm saying is it's just so rare that you might go a whole campaign without ever getting that advantage. So it really depends. Then the other one is Fairy Fire. You get to cast it once per long rest. You can use any of the intelligence, any of the mental stats to cast it. You can also use your regular spell slots to cast it, and you get the nice little bonus that when you cast Fairy Fire without a spell slot, which means it's only I guess it's not only the free casting from this one, it just says without a spell slot. So if you have other free castings of Fairy Fire, all of those benefit from not being that your concentration can't be broken by damage. So if you take Magic Initiate Druid and get Fairy Fire again, then that applies to both of those, I guess. Interesting. This one is okay. In Fairy Fire, I give it a C overall, and that's because Fairy Fire in Tier 1 is a great support spell, right? You're giving all of your allies and potentially yourself advantage on attack rolls against the targets if they fail their saves. It just gets outclassed as you get to higher levels, and because it's concentration, right? So you can only concentrate on one spell. You get higher level spells that are better concentration spells, and you should switch to those. Um, Even if you're focused on the support role, there are better support spells than this, a lot better support spells than this. So it just falls off in value, and that the benefit of the concentration can't be broken by damage just isn't enough to keep this valuable, you know, into tier 2 even. There's probably some builds that you could optimize around that particular function, like maybe maybe you're the tank and you want to use Fairy Fire, like you want to run in and cast Fairy Fire on yourself and the enemy, so they have advantage to attack you, which is kind of like an AOE taunt. It's like the Reckless, like I talk about with Barbarian. It's kind of an AOE taunt. Like if everybody has advantage to attack you and not your allies, that's a form of a taunt that encourages them to attack you. So then you cast it on yourself, they're going to hit you more, but they can't break your concentration with damage. Like that's the best optimization I can think of around this particular feat in the way it functions. So and that's circumstantial, right? Very niche. That's not, most builds are not going to benefit from that very much, and not for very long. Like in tier 1, this might be a B, but once you hit tier 2, it's a C, and tier 3 and 4, this is like a D all around this feat, even for the support function. So not great, and especially because of Magic Initiate Druid, right? If you want Fairy Fire for tier 1, you can get that with Magic Initiate Druid, and then because you can change your spells when you level up, you can swap it out when Fairy Fire is no longer worth your concentration. So you get to level 5, tier 2. You could swap out this spell and replace Fairy Fire with like Healing Word, Goodberry, Longstrider, anything that doesn't require concentration. The Druid spell list has got quite a few valuable spells at first level that don't require concentration. Absorb Elements, right? If you don't have Absorb Elements on your spell list, that's a great one to pick to get with from your Druid spell list. So Magic Initiate just outclasses this in pretty much every way, right? So if you're looking for, yeah, Fairy Fire, then I would take Magic Initiate instead and swap that spell out later when it no longer is valuable. And last but not least, Shadowmoor Hexer. You get the Hex spell. You always have it prepared. You can cast it once for free. You can use any mental stat with it. You can't swap it out, uh, just like the Lorwyn or Child of the Sun origin feat. And then you get the additional bonus of Curse Magic, which is, and when I did this in the video yesterday, when I first went over these without really ranking them, I mentally read this wrong. And it's not that any creature that hits you while you are concentrating on Hex, it's that the creature who is hexed specifically is the only one that gets that damage, that psychic damage reflection, and only once per turn, which makes this even weaker than I thought. So the Curse Magic feature is pretty weak, okay? Um, so I'm barely going to rank that in there, and I'm going to put it as a frontliner feature. I don't even know that I would qualify that as a tanking feature, because damage reflection would actually discourage them from attacking you. So I don't know that you want this as a tank, although it's not enough damage to have much of an impact. So that just almost doesn't rank as anything. But the Hex spell is a good one. There is no Magic Initiate Warlock, although in Crooked Moon partnered content, they have a feat that's called Cult Initiate, and that is just Magic Initiate Warlock. And if your DM plays with that one greatly outclasses this one for the same reasons that Child of the Sun is outclassed by Magic Initiate Druid. So if your DM plays with that one, then this feat is probably a C across the board. Okay. Um, but if they don't play with that one and they only play with like WotC official published content, then I give this one an A for anybody who's a damage dealer with a lot of attacks, right? The more attacks you make, the more value this has. Like, so 2-weapon fighting is even better. Okay. So this could be great for monks, great for any 2-weapon fighting build, whether you're a skirmisher or a frontliner. But even ranged builds, right? You can't do 2-weapon fighting, but you're still making, if you're a ranged martial, you're still making a lot of attacks. Or if you're a warlock, right? Eldritch Blast makes a lot of attacks. Now, if you're a warlock, you already have access to the Hex spell, but this might still be okay, something that you want to pick up, because as a warlocks don't get a lot of spells prepared, and two, they don't have a lot of spell slots. They just have the pack spell slots, which are higher level. So by level 3, you only have second level spell slots, and it kind of hurts to cast Hex with a second level spell slot, right? When you only have 2 of them per short rest. So this might be worthwhile. You get an extra free casting of Hex. It only lasts 1 hour. When your pack spell slot is level 3 and you use it to cast Hex, it's going to last 8 hours, which then just means you can just take a short rest, get your pack spell slots back, and you still have Hex for another 7 hours. Or if you cast it with a 5th level spell slot, it lasts 24 hours. You just cast it at the beginning of the day, I don't know, on your familiar, then kill your familiar, then resummon your familiar. You still have Hex going. You enter combat, and now you can move it to somebody else for the whole day, and you have all your pack spell slots. So with a little bit of creativity, you don't even need this. But if you don't want to engage in those kind of shenanigans, those are a bit shenanigan-y, this could be good for you as a warlock. Just give you an extra casting of Hex at first level, which works well with Eldritch Blast. So as origin feats go, right, this is not compared to general feats or anything else. As origin feats go, I'd say this is a solid damage dealing buff for anyone who's making lots of attacks. The only other origin feat that like has a damage boost is Savage Attacker, and I give that one pretty low rating, C across the board, because it just doesn't scale. It just doesn't do much for your damage. It starts off okay in tier 1 and then scales poorly. It scales a little bit poorly into higher tiers. So this is a lot better than that. And if you're not using your concentration for anything else, this is a great spell to have. Like this is great for Eldritch Knights, right? You're making a lot of attacks. You make it to tier 4. If you get level 20, you got 4 attacks, and you don't want to use your concentration for other things. 4 attacks times Hex is 4d6 per round. And if you action surge, that's an extra 8d6 in 1 round of attacks. And then if you have like a bonus action attack and you have a reaction attack, that's 10d6 in 1 round that Hex is adding to your damage. That's huge. So this would be great for Eldritch Knights, and probably I would consider this on Paladins if I don't get Hunter's Mark, and I would consider this on Artificers for sure. Any martial build I'm doing with an Artificer, like the Armor and the Battlesmith, I would consider this, especially since they just don't have any spells they can use to boost their martial damage. The Battlesmith gets a couple of smites, and those are unfortunately conflict with the bonus action to command your pet. So those are hard to use. So this one you could use might work better. It depends on how frequently how fast the monsters are dying. Anyway, that's where I'd consider these. So I think it's pretty good. That's all I got for this one. So thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Remember to be cool when you play D&D. These people are your friends or could become your friends. All right. So it's a game and it's for fun. Catch you next time.